The road stretched desolate and lonely under the heavy Texas sun, a winding ribbon of asphalt cutting through fields of yellowed grass. It was late August, and the air shimmered with heat waves. Cars zipped by, indifferent to the quiet struggles of the world they left in their wake. But one moment of cruelty, one fleeting act of disregard, would alter the lives of three beings forever. It happened just before dusk, on a quiet stretch of Highway 290 outside of Austin. A black sedan sped down the road, its windows tinted, concealing the intentions of those inside. A careless toss, a dark blur of movement, and a small, helpless body tumbled onto the unforgiving pavement. A puppy, no more than 8 weeks old, hit the asphalt, yelping in pain as the car disappeared into the horizon, leaving him alone, broken, and whimpering in the middle of the road. The little pup, a wiry mix of indeterminate breeds, had patches of chocolate and white fur now matted with dust and streaked with blood. His tiny ribs heaved as he tried to breathe through the pain. His back leg bent at an unnatural angle, and his frightened brown eyes darted toward every approaching car, each gust of wind from speeding vehicles pushing him closer to the edge of consciousness. Not far down the road, a man named Travis was out for his evening run with his loyal companion, a golden retriever named Buck. Travis, a quiet, middle-aged man with the weathered look of someone who'd seen his share of life's hardships, had moved to Austin 5 years ago after losing his wife to cancer. Buck, his ever-faithful friend, had been a gift from her before she passed, a parting gesture of love that had saved Travis from spiraling into despair. That evening, as Travis jogged along the shoulder of the highway, Buck suddenly froze, his ears perked and his nose quivering. The retriever let out a low whine before breaking into a sprint, pulling his leash taut. "Buck, heel!" Travis shouted, but the dog was insistent, tugging him toward the road. It wasn't until Travis squinted ahead that he saw the tiny, crumpled figure lying motionless. His heart lurched. "Oh no," he murmured, his pace quickening. As they got closer, Buck began barking urgently, circling the injured puppy as if urging his owner to do something. Travis knelt down, his pulse pounding in his ears. The puppy's shallow breaths and whimpering made his chest tighten. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of amber and pink, but all Travis could see was the fragile life teetering on the edge of survival. "Who could do this?" he muttered angrily, his hands hovering over the pup, unsure of where to touch without causing more pain. The puppy let out a pitiful cry when Travis gently lifted him, cradling him against his chest. His warmth seeped into the man's shirt, and his tiny heart beat weakly against Travis's hand. Buck nuzzled the puppy, his soft whines mirroring Travis's own concern. Travis stood, scanning the empty road. "Hang in there, little guy," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "We'll get you help." The setting sun cast long shadows as Travis jogged back toward his truck, the injured puppy secure in his arms and Buck loyally trotting beside him. Little did they know, this moment would mark the beginning of an extraordinary journey, one that would test their courage, strength, and the power of compassion in ways they never expected. Would the puppy survive? Could Travis and Buck save him in time? The clock was ticking, and Travis knew every second counted. The nearest animal hospital was 30 minutes away. As he drove, glancing nervously at the pup cradled in his lap, he whispered promises of safety and a better life. For the first time in years, Travis felt something stir in his heart, a flicker of purpose, ignited by the fragile soul that fate had thrown into his path. This was no ordinary night, and this was no ordinary rescue. It was the beginning of a story that would change all their lives forever. The animal hospital was a modest, one-story building on the outskirts of Austin, its fluorescent sign flickering faintly in the gathering darkness. Travis pulled into the parking lot, his truck skidding to a halt. Buck whined anxiously from the passenger seat, his golden eyes darting toward the tiny puppy nestled in Travis's lap. "Stay here, Buck," Travis said firmly, though his voice trembled. He scooped up the injured puppy, who let out a soft, heartbreaking whimper. Inside, the reception area was quiet, save for the hum of an overhead fan. A young veterinary assistant looked up from her desk, her expression shifting from mild boredom to shock when she saw the battered creature in Travis's arms. "Oh my God, what happened?" she asked, rushing around the desk to guide him toward the examination room. Someone threw him out of a moving car, Travis replied, his voice tight with anger. The words felt foreign on his tongue, as if speaking them aloud made the cruelty more real. The assistant's eyes filled with pity as she led him to a metal examination table. "Dr. Moreno, emergency," she called, her voice echoing down the sterile hallway. Within moments, Dr. Elena Moreno, a woman in her late 40s with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor, entered the room. Her hands moved with practiced precision as she examined the puppy, her brow furrowing with every new injury she uncovered. "A broken leg, fractured ribs, and severe road rash," she murmured, her voice professional but tinged with sorrow. She gently touched the puppy's head, her expression softening. "He's a fighter, though. He's hanging on." Travis stood off to the side, his fists clenched and his heart pounding. Buck's worried face peered through the window of the truck outside, his breath fogging the glass. "Can you save him?" Travis asked, his voice almost a whisper. Dr. Moreno looked up at him, her eyes meeting his. "We can try, but it won't be easy or cheap. He'll need surgery to set the leg, antibiotics for the infections, and constant care." "I don't care about the cost," Travis said immediately, surprising even himself. He barely made ends meet as a handyman, but in that moment the thought of walking away felt impossible. "Okay," Dr. Moreno said with a nod. "Let's get started." As the puppy was wheeled into surgery, Travis sank into a chair in the waiting room, his head in his hands. Buck lay at his feet, resting his chin on his paws, as if sensing the weight of his owner's turmoil. Hours passed. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly above, and the waiting room grew colder as the night deepened. Travis couldn't shake the image of the puppy tumbling onto the road, the pain and terror in his tiny eyes. Who could be so heartless? And why did this feel so personal, so urgent, as if saving this pup was more than just an act of kindness? The surgery was successful, but the battle was far from over. Over the next few weeks, Travis's life became consumed by the fragile creature he had rescued. He named the pup Chance, a nod to the second chance he hoped to give him. Chance's leg was wrapped in a bright blue cast, and his tiny body was covered in healing wounds. He required constant care, medication, physical therapy, and regular checkups. Travis found himself waking up in the middle of the night to check on him, gently lifting him to drink water or soothing his whimpers with soft words. Buck, ever the nurturing companion, took to Chance immediately. He would lie beside the pup's bed, his warm body a source of comfort, and lick Chance's face when he whimpered. The bond between the two dogs was instantaneous and unshakable, as if Buck had decided that this little one was his responsibility too. But caring for Chance wasn't easy. Travis's savings dwindled rapidly, and he began picking up extra jobs to cover the mounting veterinary bills. He spent long, grueling days repairing roofs, fixing plumbing, and hauling debris, only to come home exhausted to a house filled with the faint scent of antiseptic and the soft whines of his new charge. One night, after a particularly long day, Travis slumped into a chair, his body aching and his spirits low. Chance lay in his bed, his casted legs sticking out awkwardly, while Buck dozed nearby. The weight of it all, the financial strain, the emotional toll, threatened to crush him. "I don't know if I can do this," Travis admitted aloud, his voice breaking. "I don't know if I'm enough." As if sensing his despair, Buck lifted his head, his soulful eyes locking onto Travis's. Then, slowly, the golden retriever got up, walked over to Chance, and lay down beside him, resting his head gently against the puppy's tiny body. Travis felt his throat tighten. He had lost so much in his life, his wife, his sense of purpose, but here were two lives depending on him. And not just for survival, but for love, for hope, for a reason to keep going. Yet, despite Travis's efforts, challenges continued to arise. Chance struggled with infections, and there were days when he seemed too tired to fight. Dr. Moreno warned that the next few weeks would be critical, and Travis couldn't shake the fear that he might lose him. One evening, as Travis sat on the porch with Buck and Chance, staring out at the Texas stars, he felt a pang of doubt. What if he wasn't doing enough? What if Chance's suffering was too great? But then Chance did something extraordinary. The tiny pup, frail and injured as he was, used his good leg to push himself upright. He took a trembling step forward, his casted leg awkwardly dragging behind him. Travis watched, stunned, as Buck rose to his feet, standing beside Chance as if to steady him. "Good boy," Travis whispered, tears streaming down his face. Good boy, Chance. In that moment, something shifted. It wasn't just about saving a life anymore. It was about fighting for it, together. Enjoying the story so far? Then comment man and dog so I know you're liking it, and let me know where you're from. The sound of rain on the tin roof was soothing, a soft rhythm that filled the quiet of Travis's small home. It had been 6 weeks since Chance was rescued from the highway, and though his physical wounds were slowly healing, the scars on his spirit lingered. The little pup was skittish, often startling at sudden movements or loud noises. He would cower if anyone but Travis or Buck came near him, his tiny body trembling as if he expected more pain. Travis had started to notice the toll it was taking on Buck too. The golden retriever, normally full of boundless energy and joy, had become subdued, his focus entirely on Chance. It was as if Buck understood the weight of Chance's trauma and had taken it upon himself to protect him. But tonight was different. The rain had picked up and thunder rumbled in the distance. Travis sat at the kitchen table, sifting through a pile of bills. The veterinary costs were crushing him. He had maxed out his credit card, and the extra work he had been taking on wasn't enough. For the first time since rescuing Chance, a thought crept into his mind. A thought that made his stomach churn with guilt. Maybe he couldn't do this alone. Maybe Chance would be better off with someone who had more resources, more time. As if reading his thoughts, Buck patted over and rested his head on Travis's knee, his eyes full of quiet reassurance. Travis sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You always know, don't you, boy?" he murmured. At that moment, a sharp, terrified yelp came from the living room. Travis shot up from his chair, his heart racing. When he entered the room, he saw Chance trembling violently, his wide eyes fixed on the window where lightning had just illuminated the night. "Oh, buddy," Travis said softly, kneeling down beside him. He reached out to touch the pup, but Chance flinched and whimpered, curling into a tight ball. It broke Travis's heart. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, his voice cracking. "I'm so sorry someone hurt you like this." Buck, ever the guardian, approached and lay down beside Chance, pressing his warm body against the trembling pup. He licked Chance's face gently, and for the first time that night, the puppy began to calm. Travis watched, his chest tightening with emotion. Buck wasn't just comforting Chance, he was teaching him to trust, to feel safe again. And then it hit Travis like a bolt of lightning. This wasn't about money or resources. This was about love. He had already given Chance the one thing he needed most, a family who refused to give up on him. The turning point came the next morning. Travis was working in the backyard, repairing a section of his fence that had been damaged in the storm. Buck and Chance were nearby, the golden retriever keeping a close eye on the puppy as he hobbled around on his casted leg. "Careful, little guy," Travis called out, watching as Chance ventured a few feet farther than usual. His heart swelled with pride. Each tiny step was a victory. Then, as if spurred by some newfound determination, Chance stopped and looked back at Buck. The golden retriever stood still, his tail wagging gently as if encouraging the puppy. And then it happened. Chance took another step, and another. His cast dragged awkwardly behind him. But he didn't stop. "Come on, buddy," Travis said, crouching down and holding out his arms. "You can do it." Chance's tiny face was a mix of concentration and fear, but he kept moving, his little body trembling with effort. Buck followed closely, ready to catch him if he fell. When Chance finally reached Travis, the man scooped him up and held him close, tears streaming down his face. "That's my boy," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You're so brave." Buck barked excitedly, wagging his tail as if celebrating the milestone. That evening, as they all sat on the porch watching the sunset, something shifted in Chance. For the first time, he nudged Travis's hand with his nose, his way of asking for affection. Travis obliged immediately, stroking the pup's soft fur and smiling through his tears. "You're going to be okay," he said softly, more to himself than to Chance. "We're all going to be okay." But the true turning point came 2 days later, when Travis received a call from Dr. Marino. "I have some good news," she said, her voice warm. "I've been talking with some colleagues, and we've arranged for Chance to receive additional treatments at a reduced cost. There's a nonprofit organization that helps cases like his, and they want to cover the rest of his care." Travis was speechless. "Are you serious?" Dead serious, Dr. Moreno replied. You saved his life, Travis. You gave him a chance when no one else would. Now it's time for us to help you. Tears streamed down Travis's face as he hung up the phone. Buck wagged his tail excitedly, sensing his owner's joy. We did it, boys, Travis said, pulling both dogs into a hug. We're going to make it. The days that followed were a blur of progress and hope. With the help of the nonprofit organization and Dr. Moreno's guidance, Chance began receiving specialized care. Weekly physical therapy sessions helped strengthen his tiny, healing body. His cast was removed after 2 months, revealing a wobbly but functional leg. For the first time, the little pup could stand on all 4 legs without trembling, without pain. Travis had never been prouder. Every milestone, every hesitant step, every wag of Chance's once limp tail felt like a miracle. But the true transformation came not in the puppy's physical recovery, but in his spirit. The timid, broken creature who once cowered at every shadow began to reveal glimpses of the dog he was meant to be. One morning, as Travis prepared breakfast, Chance and Buck played together on the living room floor. Buck nudged a tennis ball toward the pup, his tail wagging eagerly. At first, Chance tilted his head, unsure of what to do. But then, as if instinct finally took over, he pounced on the ball, his tiny paws batting it clumsily across the room. Would you look at that? Travis said aloud, his chest tightening with pride. He set down the spatula and crouched beside them, ruffling both dogs' fur. You're a natural, Chance. The little pup barked for the first time, a tiny high-pitched sound that sent Buck into a frenzy of joy. The golden retriever barked back, spinning in circles as if encouraging his young friend. From that day on, Chance blossomed. He followed Buck everywhere, imitating his every move, from the way he stretched lazily in the sun to the way he rested his chin on Travis's knee during quiet moments. Buck, in turn, seemed to take his role as Chance's mentor very seriously. As the months passed, life began to stabilize. The nonprofit continued to support Chance's care, and Travis found himself catching up on bills and even saving a little money. He worked hard, but the weight of his burdens felt lighter now, as if the little pup had brought something back into his life that he hadn't even realized was missing. One evening, as Travis sat on the porch with a beer in hand, watching the 2 dogs chase fireflies in the yard, he reflected on how much had changed. Chance's once battered body was now strong and agile. His fur, which had been patchy and dull, was soft and glossy. And his eyes, those deep brown eyes that had once been clouded with fear, now sparkled with mischief and joy. It wasn't just Chance who had changed. Travis felt different too. For years he had moved through life in a fog, weighed down by grief and loneliness. But caring for Chance, watching him fight and grow, had reminded Travis of something he thought he'd lost forever: the power of love to heal, even in the face of unimaginable pain. The final test came one crisp autumn afternoon. Travis and the dogs were at the local park, a sprawling expanse of green surrounded by towering oak trees. Buck raced ahead, his golden fur gleaming in the sunlight, while Chance stayed close to Travis, still cautious of the world around him. Go on, buddy, Travis urged gently, tossing a stick a few feet ahead. Chance hesitated, his little ears twitching as he looked from Travis to the stick and back again. Buck returned, nudging the stick closer to Chance with his nose, as if to say, "It's okay. You've got this." Something shifted in the puppy's expression. With a determined little bark, Chance darted forward, his small body moving with surprising speed and confidence. He grabbed the stick in his mouth, shaking it triumphantly as he trotted back to Travis. "Attaboy," Travis exclaimed, laughing as he crouched down to greet him. He ruffled Chance's fur, his heart swelling with pride. That moment, simple and unremarkable to anyone else, was monumental to Travis. It wasn't just that Chance had fetched the stick. It was that he had taken a leap of faith, trusting in himself and the world around him. From that day on, there was no stopping Chance. He chased squirrels with Buck, barked at the mailman, and greeted strangers at the park with an enthusiastic wag of his tail. He was still small, still a little wobbly on his once broken leg, but he didn't let that hold him back. Travis began taking both dogs with him to job sites, and Chance quickly became a favorite among his clients. Children adored him, often crouching down to pet his soft fur or toss a ball for him to fetch. "He's a miracle dog," one woman said, watching as Chance played with her young daughter. Travis smiled. Yeah, he replied, glancing at the little pup. He really is. One evening, as Travis sat on the porch with Buck and Chance at his feet, he received an unexpected call from Dr. Marino. "I thought you might like to know," she said, "that we've started telling Chance's story to others. It's inspired so many people to consider adoption and to support rescue efforts. He's become a little hero." Travis chuckled, glancing down at the pup who was gnawing happily on a stick. "He's definitely my hero," he said, his voice soft. Dr. Moreno paused. "And you're his, don't forget that." Life wasn't perfect, but it was good. Travis no longer felt like he was just surviving. He was living, truly living, and it was all thanks to the tiny broken puppy who had stumbled into his life on that fateful August evening. Chance wasn't just a second chance for himself. He'd given Travis one too. It was a year to the day since Travis had first seen Chance lying broken and terrified on that lonely stretch of highway. The late summer sun bathed the yard in golden light as Buck and Chance chased each other through the grass, their joyous barks filling the air. Travis sat on the porch with a cup of coffee in hand, a peaceful smile playing on his lips. Chance had grown into a strong, spirited dog. His once fragile frame now carried him with surprising agility, though his slight limp was a reminder of the struggles he had overcome. His eyes, once full of fear, now radiated trust and love. And Buck, his loyal mentor, had never left his side. Travis often thought about the moment he had found Chance, the sheer helplessness he had felt as he held the tiny, broken pup in his arms. At the time, he had questioned whether he had the strength to save him. But now, looking out at the life they had built together, he realized that saving Chance had, in many ways, saved him too. There was something extraordinary about the bond they had formed. It wasn't just the companionship of a man and his dogs. It was the unspoken understanding between beings who had known pain and chosen to keep going, to love despite the scars. Travis leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees as he watched Chance pounce on a butterfly, his tail wagging furiously. He chuckled, shaking his head. "You've come a long way, little guy," he said softly. Buck trotted over, settling at Travis's feet, while Chance followed, dropping the stick he had been carrying. The pup looked up at Travis, his big brown eyes filled with an almost human gratitude. "You're a fighter," Travis murmured, reaching down to scratch behind Chance's ears. "You taught me how to fight too." In the quiet of the evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the first stars began to appear, Travis felt a deep sense of contentment. His life wasn't perfect. There were still bills to pay and the occasional pang of grief for his late wife, but he had found something he hadn't felt in years: purpose, hope, and the reminder that love could heal even the deepest wounds. As the three of them sat together on the porch, Travis, Buck, and Chance, it was clear that their journey had been one of transformation. They were no longer broken pieces trying to fit back together. They were whole. They were a family. Chance's story was not just one of survival, but of the incredible power of love and second chances. He had gone from being discarded on a highway to becoming a beacon of hope, not just for himself, but for Travis and Buck as well. This little dog, with his tiny frame and resilient spirit, had shown that even in the face of cruelty and despair, life had a way of finding its way back to joy. He had taught Travis that no matter how broken you feel, healing is possible. To anyone watching this story, the message is clear. Every life matters. Whether human or animal, we all have the capacity to love, to heal, and to give one another the chance to thrive. So if you ever find yourself doubting your ability to make a difference, remember Chance. Remember that even the smallest act of kindness, a moment of compassion, can save a life and change your own in ways you never imagined. And if you ever see a soul in need, whether on a quiet stretch of highway or in the shadows of your own life, take that leap of faith, because sometimes saving them is the very thing that will save you too.